A seasoned marketer has the experience and the judgment that AI cannot replicate. So the best marketers are the seasoned marketers that can take that experience, combine it with AI to leverage it in a positive manner.
Hi, and welcome back to SaaS Half Full, the only show serving B2B SaaS and AI marketers. I'm Lindsay Groper, EVP at PanBlast, and I will be both your host and bartender today. I had a killer conversation with Greg Jung, who is the CMO at Seven Corners. And Greg and I dove into an interesting topic as it relates to experience in the age of AI. Now, some of you may think that experience may have become obsolete with AI. We all have access now to the same tools, same ideas, same prompts, same research, etc. But Greg argues just the opposite and believes that experience is the only thing that is now genuinely scarce and is a differentiator when it comes to AI and marketing. So if you'd care to, grab a drink and join me as I speak with Greg. Hey, Greg, welcome to SaaS Half Full.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It is awesome to have you, and you're not too far from me. I very rarely talk to people in market, which is awesome, but you are only about 20 minutes from me in Indianapolis. You are in Carmel.
Yep.
In hindsight, we maybe could have done this at a bar and really made the whole sharing a drink thing happen, but we're doing it virtual. And are you joining for a drink today? It is a respectable 2:45 p.m. hour. So what do you mix up today?
I have been up since 2 a.m. So if you think of it that way, it's kind of late night for me. So yes, I am good.
Wow.
I'm good to go.
Awesome. What are you mixing up?
I am doing a blood orange mimosa cocktail. So I've got some blood orange fruit drink and I've got some Prosecco. So I'm gonna mix those and I've got some dried fruit to garnish it with.
Dang, that's way cooler than what I'm drinking, but that sounds so perfect for a 90 plus degree humid day here
Yes.
in Indy. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going with pretty standard. I'm doing a Tito's and a cherry bubbly, which is also perfect for a hot day. So cheers. Thanks for joining.
Cheers. Yes, definitely. And I'm going to actually mix it up
Oh,
while we're
please do.
talking. Yeah.
This is most people just listen to our episodes. Some people will be watching on YouTube. So Greg was folding up. If you're not watching, you're just listening. All the accoutrements to make up this lovely drink, and he's going to be mixing up here live as we talk. Well, I was excited to talk to you, Greg. We're talking about something pretty interesting as it relates to AI. I know my last episode, we talked nothing about AI, which truly was very refreshing. We talked about in-person events and owned events that had nothing to do with AI. But back on the AI train, but we are talking about something that we have not discussed in today's AI era, which is the role that experience now plays. And you have a very interesting take on that. That we're going to dive into. But before we do, Greg, I want to give our listeners an understanding of who you are, or at least, so if you could talk about a little bit about your background and how you ended up as CMO at Seven Corners, and then dive into your marketing Encore brand. I know for a fact, just based on my network, I have many folks listening that are going to fit into this marketing Encore group, that you may have some new consumers of your brand here shortly.
Yeah. I'll give you a quick fly through of my background. I am originally from Indiana and I say I attended all of the best schools in Indiana. So my undergrad is Purdue. I have a master's from Butler and an MBA from Notre Dame. So all the
Oh
good
my
schools,
gosh.
especially, yeah. Yeah. So I have two MBAs. So I don't know if that means I'm smart or kind of dumb that needed to do it again. So
You
who
were
knows?
broke at
Take it
one
for what it
point.
is.
Don't know.
Yeah. Still am. But so I have been in marketing pretty much my entire career. And a fun fact, I started with a company called a Primo in Indiana or in Indianapolis here. And they grew up at the same time that another company that got acquired by Salesforce was starting as well, Exact Target. And we kind of grew up together at the same time. Primo got acquired by Teradata, and ExactTarget, of course, got acquired by Salesforce. And so I've been in marketing and resource management and marketing technology since the early 2000s. And that was kind of my first foray into the B2B marketing space, product marketing, software, tech. I then went on to join Bank of America. And I was at Bank of America for 10 years in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I escaped Indiana for about 17 years, lived down in Charlotte, and I worked on crisis communications and internal communications for the bank. And then I ventured my way up to Chicago and did a couple of stints with data analytics companies, and then found my way out to San Diego. And I was deciding San Diego or move back to Indianapolis to be with Seven Corners. And of course, why wouldn't you want to come back to these wonderful winters when you live in 70-degree and
I mean,
sunny weather?
I'm following you right now, Greg, and I'm like, and you're back and you're here. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
San Diego. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been at Seven Corners now for 8 years, and it's really my first foray into direct to consumer. So Seven Corners, we've been in business for 32 years. We have two main areas that we serve: travel insurance, and we have a government healthcare division. And so travel insurance, I'm the CMO for the entire company, but I also lead our insurance sales, and I work with our healthcare team on marketing as well. And so I've been here for 8 years. It's been a very interesting space to be in, especially now that AI is really coming into play. Insure tech is a big topic of conversation right now, and how AI is all playing into claims adjudication to selling. Are you able to sell using conversational AI? So there's a lot of talk in that area as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of a quick fly through of my education. I'm not a big fan when people talk about education. I only put it in context of the state of Indiana, because you notice the one school I didn't attend,
I did.
Southern Indiana. We won't talk about that. So,
Or Indiana State.
true.
Yeah, I have some Indiana Staters in my circle here. And
Yep.
I also used to live in Chicago. I was in the Lakeview area, and it was pre-kids, had a grand old freaking time in Chicago. Broke as a joke, would do it all over again. I absolutely love that city. I hope your experience was equally as positive.
I too was in Lakeview. I actually lived in Wrigleyville, and I was there when the Cubs won the World Series. So,
Oh, very cool.
yeah.
We
Yep.
were there. We were there. Not when they won. It's when they had the big downfall with Bartman taking away the
Yeah.
ball from Moises Alou. I was at a bar and remember when that whole thing went down. So different
Yeah.
time, but
All of Chicago remembers that.
oh yeah, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, that feeling during that game was not the game, but at a bar right next door. Okay, thank you for the overview, a little background. You also have created a brand that is yours called Marketing Encore. And
Yes.
this is going to dovetail directly into the conversation that we're going to have about the role of experience in the AI era now for marketers.
Yep.
Talk to us about what Marketing Encore is, and we'll dive into our topic.
Sure. So, Marketing Encore is kind of an outlet of, I have a consulting company, and it's in-demand consulting. And I have a white label marketing platform for small businesses called Marketer Hub. And so as I was kind of working on that coming to fruition, it really is kind of that transition of being a CMO of a company and then moving into independent consulting, which is what I call my encore. And so I'm in my 50s, and the Marketing Encore is really meant for 50 plus marketers in the age of AI. And all of my content, messaging, and even now training in the Marketing Encore community is built for the seasoned marketer in the age of AI. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about being an over 50 marketer, that you're going to lose your job because of AI. I argue quite the opposite. A seasoned marketer has the experience and the judgment that AI cannot replicate. So the best marketers are the seasoned marketers that can take that experience, combine it with AI to leverage it in a positive manner. And so that's what really the marketing encore is meant to do, is to kind of get that messaging across that seasoned marketers are a rare breed, and matter of fact are more in demand now in the age of AI.
Before we hit record, I said I'm both bummed and pumped that I'm not quite yet able to be a part of that community. But I'm a couple years away, not far, be here before you know it. But I have in my network many 50 plus B2B marketers and AI marketers that I'm going to pass this episode on to once it goes live, but also flag Marketing Encore to them, because it is a contrarian point of view. Every marketer would agree that like experience matters, right? I mean, that's something that we can likely all agree on. However, many, to your point, may believe that AI is really starting to make experience obsolete because we all have access now to the same exact data, the same idea generation, same prompting. So where does that experience come in? But you're making the argument that AI has actually made experience like the only thing that's genuinely scarce now. So unpack this for us.
Yeah. So on Monday, I had a post that I put out on LinkedIn, and it was called the slop tax. And I said, everyone can publish more, almost nobody publishes better. And if you think about this, slop, the word slop, were named Word of the Year by Merriam-Webster and a couple other dictionaries. And really, when it becomes mainstream, you know that content has kind of veered in that direction. And I think what we're seeing in marketing is AI can generate 30 ideas in a matter of seconds. But what AI can't do is it can't take your failures, your successes, the Friday afternoon emergency on messaging that you need to take into consideration. And that's where having that experience and judgment combined with the AI really makes someone a powerful marketer. And I think the people who understand that and adopt to that mentality quickly will be very successful. Where I really see AI is, and it's been interesting because we have our interns at Seven Corners today presented their final project. They're wrapping up for the summer. And a couple of them, and one intern last year came to me and they said, Greg, I'm really worried about going into marketing because AI is going to replace our jobs. And they were asking, what can I do to keep from facing that fear of not having an entry level job because AI can do it? And that's where I said, go back and take a look at, brands from before. Take a look at BlackBerry. Why did BlackBerry fail? I do a series on the Marketing Encore YouTube channel where I do brand autopsies, and I call it marketing malpractice. And I've done Nike, I've done Red Lobster, and I said, go back and take a look at those brands, because the teachings of what happened is what you can learn and then apply with AI to be a better marketer. And so, it's been interesting to kind of see it through both the lens of experience and the new marketers that are graduating from college. So
for those that, have experience, and this is really anyone, whether it's 1 year or 30 years, but like most of us, I'll take myself for example, we have this experience that sort of sits in our heads. We know what we know based on our experience. So this discussion almost turns into then like, how do you like operationalize experience? So how do you actually like translate decades of, I think judgment is the word that you used, or taste or common sense, into repeatable marketing that benefits the entire team, or that depending on what you're using, that it maybe AI can use? What does that look like? Is it playbooks? Is it prompt libraries? How do you operationalize that experience?
Yeah, what I see is, and kind of what I've been putting into practice is, I take one thing that I do in marketing per week. So I'll give you an example. We're trying to respond to a lot of media outreach. And so, one thing that people are very sensitive to today is AI generated content. And PR teams and reporters have gotten very, very good at detecting AI content. So, what I say is take the prompt that the reporter gives you and then use AI. So, it's kind of the 10-80-10 rule. 10% use your experience, write down things that are in your experience that relate to that prompt. Then give it to the AI to come up with 10 different ideas or 10 different angles. Then use the final 10% of your experience and judgment to finesse what the output did or gave you from AI, and then use that. So I find that if I break it down in marketing, one week it might be PR, the next week it might be social media, the next week it might be giving it all of my sales analytics and looking at forecasting and how my investment in digital advertising correlates and forecasting that out, where I'm taking one piece per week and I'm leveraging AI with my experience to then operationalize it. So then it becomes my daily use case. And so that's kind of how I've been tackling it.
Okay. Is there a specific campaign? Maybe this is with your team or in some of the, I think you call them brand autopsies. So I have that right.
And marketing malpractice, a brand autopsy. Yeah.
Brand, okay. Or maybe it's one of those where like you can walk us through a campaign or, maybe it was just through a brand evolution where it was clear that like experience beat the data or, the experience trumped AI. Any specific examples that you can share?
Yeah. One of the ones that I did recently was on Nike, a brand that I love. Nike is not a shoe company, it is a storytelling company. And how it really grew was through telling the story of athletes that were basically their brand ambassadors. And as it moved away, and they were using the data that said, cut out the middleman, create the Nike stores, don't go through distributors like Zappos or, whatever, sell direct, sell online. What happened is they moved away from their brand ethos because of what their data was telling them and what the new leadership came in and basically said to do. And while they were doing that, brands like Under Armour and On, everybody wears the On Cloud shoes now. Um,
Not a
they
fan,
came
by the way.
in.
I don't like how they look.
Yeah, I wear an obscure brand because I'm getting older and I need like the arch support.
Oh,
That's really sad.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I Ultra ALTRA is my
Okay.
brand now, but that's an example of where a brand deviated from their core ethos, as I call it, right? Storytelling. And they went where the data was telling them. And I think a lot of times that can happen when you rely on AI to give you strategy, right? It doesn't have the memory of the emotional connection with the customer. And that's where an experienced marketer who's lived it can take and say, okay, the data may be telling us this, the AI output may be giving us this, but we've got to remember who we are. So, how do we come up with a strategy that complements what the data and the AI is giving us? So, I think they've kind of tried to veer a little bit more course correct back into the storytelling component
Right.
of the brand. But yeah,
Have you, I want to like maybe go opposite here. Have you
sure.
seen, and maybe it's specifically with your marketing Encore community, where AI has made experienced marketers worse potentially, where maybe they are like reluctant more reluctant to trust AI based on their experience because I know better. My ideas are better. I've seen more. I say to my kids all the time, I'm telling you this because I literally have lived life longer and I know. And
Yeah.
there have been seen where AI has maybe made experienced marketers worse. And in what way?
I don't know that I've seen it with making experienced marketers worse. Where I see the problem is AI makes everybody think they're marketers. And I'll give you an example, not to pick on certain leadership at companies, but I've seen it where leadership will use AI and they will look at it to build a strategy, a marketing strategy, and they trust that output. And they may trust it more than they trust their marketing team.
Really?
That's where I see more of an issue because I think people are saying AI knows best, and my team with 30 years of experience doesn't know. And so I've seen that more than I've seen experienced marketers be skeptical of the data.
Yeah.
And I think I might be a little biased because, I talked about my education. I'm a lifetime learner. Like when I wake up and I can't sleep, I'm watching a YouTube video from HubSpot on Claude and how it's automated, this type of capability in marketing, which they have really good content, by the way. But I haven't experienced that skepticism of
Yeah.
it, experienced marketers. But what I've seen it do is it gives a perception that everybody knows
Mhm.
marketing.
Mhm.
I like to say this: I don't know how to write code, so I'm never going to be in the IT team. I don't need someone in IT thinking that they're a marketer because they use Claude to come up with a marketing campaign. So,
Yeah, I know. And AI's only made it worse. I feel like since the beginning of time that everyone always thinks they're a marketer. And it's always so funny to me because like someone made in product or so, someone in IT, someone in finance will say, like, have we thought about running Facebook ads or what about a billboard? No one would ever go to the CFO and be like, have we thought about looking at our accounts receivable and just collecting money like earlier?
right.
No one does. It's like nobody steps in that lane, but everyone always thinks they're a marketer. AI's definitely made it worse. When things like that happen, not necessarily in your org, but if you see it happen in other orgs, and with specifically when it's been like AI generated, marketing or marketing ideas or content, do you have like I don't know, I'm going to call it like a kill test for AI generated marketing where you have like a checklist in your head, maybe to be able to say like, okay, this isn't right. This isn't ready yet. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So it's easy to tell on imagery. It's a little harder to tell on messaging.
Mhm.
However, you can kind of tell on messaging because there's certain phrasing that you can kind of put a litmus test
Oh,
on. And you can easily say that this is, I look back at some emails where I used AI to help write, and I'm like,
I know.
why did I ever push send? It's a little bit dependent
Yeah.
upon whether you're looking at creative or whether you're looking at messaging. I think you can tell, but it's maybe a little bit easier in one area because the AI is not as advanced on the creative and imagery. However, it is gaining very, very quickly on that. I look at messaging primarily, and I think again, this is where a lot of people think they use AI or they're using AI because they're writing a prompt and they're basically using it like a glorified Google. Prompt writing is a skill. And the better you are at it, the harder it is to detect the AI output.
Yeah, I agree. And I've even seen this in my own content, my LinkedIn content, content that I used AI to help ideate and like also like, can you polish this and use my tone and voice? It's the worst performing content by far. And also I agree with you. I'll like go back and read it. I'm like, doesn't even freaking sound like me. It's
Yeah.
like, and the more I reprompt, the less it sounds like me because it's taking what's already out there and infusing that back in there. One of my colleagues, Jake Dahl, calls it an Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. And it's just, that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
constantly regurgitating what already exists and making more of it. And I totally agree with you on that. And we did a blog post to it. Pam Blast, one of our content writers, published it, which was it was basically like 10 telltale phrases that you used AI. The one that's killing me right now is like, it's not X, it's Y. That's everywhere. And I'll like read
Yeah.
a post and I'm like, oh, I'm chilling with this. And then I'll end with that. I was like, no, don't use AI for this.
For me, it's whenever AI gives me something about a moat. It's always wanting me to talk about building a moat. And I'm like, that is not language most marketers use. So,
Literally would never use that term
yeah,
like
I've used it twice.
in normal conversation. And it's crazy because you'd mentioned one of the use cases was looking at when talking with media and that they're good at, flagging AI generated content, but also the AI checkers are also flagging stuff that literally was written by human beings.
Yeah.
And it's coming back as it was AI generated, and people are getting like dinged for being overly polished writers. I don't know if you saw floating around social media, someone like literally uploaded their like college thesis from like 1975 and it came back as AI generated. I mean, there's because it was so well written, which is just insane. Greg, this has been great. Is there anything that we haven't tackled on this conversation that you want to make sure that we get to today?
As we've been talking, the one area we didn't really hit too hard, but I'm anxious to see how AI evolves is in the ad space, meaning digital advertising investment. Almost every platform is basically taking away the ad buyer, the agency partner that's, doing the bid strategy. Almost everything is going to an agentic type of advertising. I'm anxious to see. That's where I have skepticism because I'm like, am I really just going to hand over my ad dollars to Google and say, I trust you to invest it in the way it's best, going to perform.
Right.
Matter of fact, I'm missing a call with our Google team right now. I like to beat them up from time to time on this, but that's one area that I'm really interested to see how it evolves because there's a lot of people that have continued to chase the algorithm, continue to chase. I like to remind my boss often that if it were a formula, if advertising were a formula and I knew how much to put in and how much it would generate out, everybody would be doing it. But that's one area that I'm really interested to see. The other area, and to kind of pull this back to a SaaS, situation, I mentioned in my marketing tech platform, Marketer Hub, is built on a technology you might have heard of it, High Level, and they've been introducing a lot of AI capabilities. Matter of fact, you are able to go in and vibe code a brand new website, connect it to the CRM within the tool through the AI capabilities. Matter of fact, if you go to my website and chat or call my agent, it's an AI agent that transcribes everything. I'm anxious to see how technology platforms in the SaaS space incorporate AI. When I woke up this morning, Alexa had an ad for, I can't remember if it was Net Zero or they were touting all of their AI capabilities. And it's kind of become so democratized, I guess you would say. Like, I'm anxious to see the technology platforms that step forward with a meaningful use of AI incorporated in how they make the technology easier to use and better for the customer.
Yeah. I mean, we assume that like all the software that we use is in the cloud. You don't no longer have to say it's a SaaS based, it's a cloud based. Like that's just is what it is. Like I think we reached the point where you don't have to say that it's AI powered or that's my assumption. I assume that pretty much every technology right now is AI. So let's get beyond that, go back to, but what is it doing for me and how is it improving and solving my problems? But it is completely democratized. It all bleeds together. But I'm hopeful that we are quickly going to move beyond that and everyone can just stop saying AI like we get it. This is the world that we live in right now. And I actually don't care. You don't care how it's done, just that it gets done in a way that I want it. And I actually feel that same way about content. I actually don't care if it's AI generated, if it solves my problem and I found it helpful and useful. I really don't care if it was written by a human or a bot. It does not matter if I got value out of it.
What's interesting, the day before, so July 3rd, the day before 4th of July, I was getting ready to host 30 family members and friends at my house on the 4th. I had a massive leak in the ceiling of my basement, and water was raining down on my finished basement. Fortunately, I've been through this a few times. I knew where the main water shutoff was, but as I was dialing for dollars for plumbers to come on what was a holiday weekend, people started their holiday on Friday. I landed on a local plumber that had implemented an AI voice agent. And that voice agent was great. And within 2 hours, I had someone at my house fixing the leak. And I had a conversation with him. I said, the reason you got the business was because you had an AI voice agent that was able to reassure me, schedule an appointment, and coordinate your visit within a 2 hour time window on a holiday. I said, I contacted multiple others where people didn't answer, or I got a voicemail. And he said, that's great. He goes, but you're kind of an anomaly because most of their customers are older and don't trust the technology. So my message is trust the technology, trust it.
Give them a shout out. Who was it for our local listeners?
Summers Heating and Cooling in Noblesville.
And there we go.
So,
okay.
yeah.
That's awesome. You'll have to pass this episode along to that plumber whenever.
And I wrote them a good Google review because I know how much that's valued in Google search. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Greg, I ask all of our guests the same question to send us out, which is if you have a favorite or signature toast to end the episode.
I don't. I'm bad.
I actually don't either. I asked this question and mine is literally just bottoms up. So I don't have one either. It's okay.
Perfect. That works for me. I guess I never take time to toast. I just start drinking. So.
Oh, maybe you should. Maybe you should just pause a minute before you down your drink. So we'll hit the old bottoms up. Greg, thanks so much for joining me. This is a great conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thanks again to Greg for joining me on SaaS Half Full. I love the idea of marketing Encore and the idea of leveraging experience and judgment when it comes to AI in marketing. Hopefully you took a couple of things away from this conversation. I know that I did. We really appreciate the listen. Until next time, bottoms up.